In my previous life, Evan was diagnosed with cancer, and everyone kept it hidden from me. To set me free, he began having affairs while subjecting me to verbal abuse and emotional neglect. Unable to endure it, I finally agreed to divorce. Yet his friends took the moral high ground, revealing his noble intentions and cancer diagnosis. Shattered, I took my own life in despair. But after my death, Evan miraculously survived. I watched him weep before my tombstone, only to later remarry his mistress at friends' encouragement. Now back at this gathering where Evan jokingly proposed divorce again, I calmly replied, "Sure." The luxurious private room plunged into eerie silence as I kept eating my bird's nest soup. Evan slowly released Nina's hand, his handsome face stiffening. He'd expected tears and tantrums, not this chilling composure. Around us, his scheming friends exchanged bewildered glances, their anticipated drama crumbling. I coldly surveyed the crowd, lingering on Nina's flawlessly made-up face. Last lifetime, I'd considered this charismatic socialite my closest confidant. How could I forget she'd been Evan's childhood friend? Her fierce loyalty masked venomous envy. Even now, she expertly feigned distress between us, though my ghost had witnessed her kicking my grave with vicious satisfaction. "Don't be mad," Nina laughed nervously, reaching for me. "Ryan came up with this stupid prank." I stepped back, staring directly at Evan. "But I'm serious. Let's divorce." "Evan." Nina hovered between us, masterfully playing the conflicted mediator. Ryan slammed his chair down, storming over. "Enough. Lily, you're crossing the line." The room's tension thickened, but I felt nothing. These vipers in designer clothes, I'd already paid my dues in blood. Now watching their script unravel brought no joy, only bone-deep weariness. My rebirth wasn't for revenge, but to finally stop dancing in their poison masquerade. I said it was a joke. "Did you have to make such a scene? Can't take it." Huh? How utterly ridiculous. They were the ones making offensive jokes while I was the victim. Yet somehow I'm being blamed for not having a sense of humor. Ryan had always been sharp-tongued and abrasive. I used to think that's just how he was with everyone, so I tolerated it. But later I realized he only treated me this way. As Evan's wife, I'd never truly been accepted by his circle of friends. I ignored Ryan's barking, keeping my gaze locked with Evan's. Seeing my unyielding stance, Evan finally understood I meant every word. He let out a bitter laugh, eyes glinting coldly. Then he grabbed Nina's arm, yanking her against his chest. "Fine. Have it your way," he bit out, staring daggers at me. "Pack your things. We'll file for divorce tomorrow." Before the entire room, he tilted Nina's chin and crushed his lips to hers. It was all teeth and dominance at first, the kiss escalating into something wet and obscenely intimate. The overhead lights cast dramatic shadows across Nina's arching back and Evan's large hands played possessively against her throat, a scene straight out of some primetime drama. I watched Nina's half-hearted pushes against Evan's chest meld into arms looping around his neck. Gasps erupted, followed by the frantic clicking of phone cameras. Being closest, I saw every damning detail, the way her lashes fluttered, his thumb stroking her pulse point. My bloodless lips parted soundlessly. Something fragile deep inside me shattered when Evan kissed her with that desperate intensity he'd never shown me. Blinking hard, I turned and walked out mechanically. Drizzle misted the parking lot, streetlights bleeding into the murky darkness where skeletal tree branches clawed at the wind. A couple nearby huddled under the guy's jacket before making a laughing dash to their car. I stared numbly at their retreating figures, haunted by the persistent feeling I'd forgotten something crucial. It wasn't until I began packing that I found the folded clear umbrella at the bottom of my suitcase, its canopy covered in childish marker drawings of my favorite anime characters. Memory flooded back that rainy afternoon in high school when I'd stayed behind, watching my quiet deskmate gaze at stormy skies with that lonely expression. The boy who'd later gifted me this umbrella. Now replaced by the man who'd chosen to kiss another woman while our marriage burned. Raindrops pattered against the window as silent tears soaked the cartoon figures I'd once traced with such care. He must have forgotten his umbrella. But there was no one left at home to bring him one. My heart softened despite myself. After a moment's hesitation, I thrust my own umbrella into his hands. "Keep it. Consider it thanks for helping me with homework," I said with forced nonchalance, masking my girlish nervousness as I surrendered my favorite umbrella. Without waiting for his reaction, I ducked beneath my friend's umbrella and urged her to hurry away. My friend teased my flaming cheeks as we walked. I playfully shoved her, yet couldn't resist glancing back through the rain curtain. The lanky teen in blue and white Letterman jacket stood out in the crowd, clutching my umbrella like a sacred relic. The pounding rain drowned in my thunderous heartbeat. The next day brought relentless showers. I can't recall what emotions churned within me when we met again, but every detail remains etched in memory: how he entered through the back classroom door, how my transparent cartoon-patterned umbrella never joined the colorful cluster in the hallway corner. Those slender fingers carefully dried every raindrop with a soft handkerchief, smoothed the fabric, then stored it reverently beside his textbooks in the desk. 18-year-old Evan looked up, catching my fleeing gaze. His crescent moon eyes crinkled with a smile as he vowed, "I'll cherish this forever." Though unspoken, our synchronized frantic heartbeats beneath restrained facades said everything his promise meant: he'd cherish me forever. The rain stopped. I wiped my tears and picked up the long-forgotten umbrella. Its yellowed plastic bore faded cartoons, rusted skeleton reeking of decay. I sat clutching it through the night until dawn's harsh light sliced through the curtains, casting my silhouette in stark relief. Stiff-limbed, I rose and tossed the relic into the trash. The phone rang endlessly before connecting. A sleep, roughened female voice answered. "Hello? Who's this?" The exaggerated yawn that followed felt painfully deliberate during my leaden silence. After an eternity, Nina's voice returned. Awkwardly apologetic. "Wrong phone. Let me wake Evan." "Don't bother." My voice stayed flat. "Tell him the paperwork's ready. City Hall. 3 p.m. I hung up before reactions could form. Though famished since yesterday, nausea churned in my gut, not from hunger, but the bitter aftertaste of our youthful summer storm finally clearing. They claim to love me deeply, swear their devotion is unshakable. Yet in the blink of an eye, they're sharing beds with others. Cheaters will cheat regardless of excuses, that's the cold truth. I remember in my past life, when I accidentally discovered the affair, the heartache nearly knocked me unconscious. I lost all composure, confronting them like some deranged harpy. Nina wore this apologetic mask while insisting it was a misunderstanding, begging me not to blame Evan. Evan himself? Not a single word of explanation. Just let me sob and scream, demanding to know if all his promises meant nothing. His silence felt heavy with unspoken burdens. That martyred act of swallowing imaginary grievances. By the end, everyone rallied around Evan. They said he had his reasons, that it wasn't intentional, that I shouldn't be so harsh. The cheaters became victims. And I? The unreasonable villain. His calm demeanor made me look unhinged. Until I started doubting myself. Was I overreacting? Had I slandered their pure friendship, forcing Evan to act out by making things official with Nina? Numbly, I agreed to divorce. But after Evan handed me the papers, his health deteriorated. Ryan and others finally snapped, storming into my face with accusations. Did I know? They hissed. That Evan's cruel act was really about sparing me? That we'd been childhood sweethearts turned spouses? That with his parents gone I was his only family? That he knew I'd never leave voluntarily, so he orchestrated this twisted exit strategy? I'd barely accepted that he stopped loving me. Now they claimed this was love's ultimate sacrifice. He could have lived 2 more years. They spat. Your theatrics worsened his condition. One mouth against many. I finally broke. After seeing Evan comatose in ICU, I raced to the hospital roof and jumped. How foolish. This second chance? I'm letting go. Of him. Of everything. Yet at the courthouse today, I waited until clerks turned off lights. Evan arrived, disheveled, wrinkled shirt beneath his trench coat. Bedhead sticking up. Breathing uneven like he'd rushed from sleep. He glanced at closed doors, exhaling what might have been regret or relief. Reschedule, he said tersely. No apologies. I told him to contact me when available, turning away before he could see my trembling hands. The elevator mirror showed my reflection, pale but steady. This time, the crash landing would be his to endure. Evan suddenly spoke up. When you called me this morning, Nina answered. What did she say to you? His probing tone ignited an inexplicable fury in me. Years of pent-up resentment erupted as I turned to sneer. Weren't you two sharing the same bed? Shouldn't you know exactly what she said? Evan paused. To my surprise, his expression softened like spring thaw, as if confirming some crucial truth. He exhaled deeply, adopting an uncharacteristically gentle tone. It's not what you think. I drank too much last night. She drove me home and stayed because I fell ill. She was just being responsible. His explanation sounded absurd regardless of context. Given our current relationship status, I couldn't fathom why he'd bother justifying himself. The answer came swiftly. Evans suddenly coughed, his handsome features contorting as pallor spread across his face. He doubled over with several hacking coughs. I couldn't tell if this was performance or reality. Either way, it wasn't my concern. I turned to leave. His footsteps pounded behind me before his hand clamped around my forearm like a vice. His ashen face twisted with barely contained fury. I'm clearly unwell here. Do you truly not care at all? He ground out between clenched teeth. I knew about his serious illness. So what? Let go. I demanded, twisting my arm. His grip only tightened, his expression darkening further. He'd been the one demanding divorce. Now that I complied without protest, he resented my compliance. After glaring daggers at me, Evan violently released my arm. A harsh cough racked his frame as he growled. Fine. Go. The words carried both anger and inexplicable anguish. I strode away without hesitation. The heavy thud of collapsing flesh stopped me cold. Evan lay unconscious on the floor. The ambulance arrived within minutes. At the hospital, I hesitated before calling Nina. She'd likely become the next Mrs. Harper soon enough. My presence here as the soon-to-be ex-wife felt inappropriate. Nina arrived swiftly with Ryan in tow. Rising from the hallway bench, I opened my mouth to explain Evan's emergency treatment. Before I could speak, Nina marched forward and slapped me with enough force to leave my ear ringing. You walking curse! She spat venomously. Will you only be satisfied when you've killed him? I touched my stinging cheek, fury rising as I raised my hand to retaliate. Ryan lunged between us, shoving me to the ground. He loomed over me like an avenging statue. You dare raise your hand? He barked. Try it and see what happens. My hands pressed against the cold floor, trembling with rage. Just then, the emergency room lights flicked off. A doctor emerged. Nina abandoned her confrontation with me and lunged forward. Ryan followed close behind. But as he passed, he hesitated. His expensive Italian leather shoe came crashing down on my hand, supporting my weight on the floor. At 6 feet tall with solid muscle, he might as well have parked a truck on my fingers. A strangled scream tore from my throat, tears flooding my vision. When I glared up, the overhead hallway lights haloed his smirking face with malicious radiance. Go ahead. Call the cops. His lips taunted soundlessly. That smirk dragged me back to my previous life's nightmare, the icy humiliation of moral persecution. The splintering psyche. Reality doused me like glacial water, extinguishing my brief spark of defiance. What use was reporting this? Ryan's family owned this city. Filing a police report would be dialing Ryan's personal hotline to mock my suffering. He'd never dared cross this line before. Evan used to shield me. But now that Evan had ripped our marriage certificate to shreds, Ryan's fangs gleamed unrestrained. It took years to understand his hatred. The truth glared obvious now. Ryan was Nina's lapdog. Nina coveted Evan. So Ryan licked Evan's boots. Nina loathed me. So Ryan sharpened his knives. I sat numb until the throbbing subsided. Stumbling upright, I fled without glancing back at the ER's sterile hellscape. The moving truck swallowed my life's remnants as we left downtown's glittering towers. The suburban house welcomed me with mildewed air and a crackling TV broadcasting opera. The wheelchair-bound figure on the balcony stirred, roomy eyes lifting behind thick bifocals. My mother's lips twisted in vindictive triumph. Got yourself kicked to the curb. Huh? I wordlessly unpacked. She fumbled with her flip phone, arthritic fingers stabbing buttons. I'll call Aunt Sue. Heard Jason's single again since the incident. Clean yourself up. My suitcase slammed shut. Am I some broodmare? If you fancy Jason so much, marry him yourself. Last I checked, he's still on parole for dealing meth. Her face purpled with rage. You should grovel that anyone wants damaged goods. Keep refusing and you'll rot here. Think I'll let you mooch off me forever? The antique clock ticked louder as our glares clashed. Decades of resentment crystallizing in the dusty air between us. The lump in my throat felt like concrete, trapping my words and dignity. Arguing with her was pointless. Decades of toxic tradition had fossilized her mind, leaving no room for even a mother's love to penetrate. I stopped packing mid-motion, shoving everything back into my bedroom before slamming the door. I'll move out this week, I declared through the wood. You won't be burdened anymore. The whirring wheelchair approached like a vengeful spirit before her fists hammered the door. Rebellious ingrate, Mother shrieked. You'll attend that matchmaking session if I have to drag you. My face is already ruined from your divorce. Must you make me a neighborhood laughingstock? Her voice turned cloying. What's wrong with Jason? Don't listen to gossip. A mother only wants. I jammed noise-canceling earbuds in, scrolling rental listings with shaking fingers. 28 years old. Yet this house still suffocated me like childhood asthma. My escape plan seemed simple: hide until Evan woke from his coma to sign divorce papers. Peace finally within reach. But life enjoys mocking carefully laid plans. When morning sickness struck again, the twin pink lines glared from the pregnancy test. Last life. I'd been too consumed fighting Evan over Nina's shadow between us to notice new life growing. Now, with divorce proceedings started and Evan's cancer diagnosis revealed months early. Cold porcelain pressed against my forehead as I stared at my reflection. I'm sorry, I whispered to the ghostly face and the life beneath my palm. This child couldn't stay. Not with the coming storm of inheritance battles and Harper family politics. But Evan's lingering attachment could be weaponized, even comatose. He'd care about an heir. Dawn found me creeping through the dim apartment. Moonlight revealed Mother's wheelchair silhouette on the balcony. Sneaking out to meet some man? Her voice slithered through the dark. Not your precious Jason. I snapped, door slamming behind me like a full stop. The outcome was unexpected. This time, she didn't argue with me. Instead, she said softly, I've asked around for you. Jason will be back in a few days. You should meet him. With a slam, I shut the front door behind me. Whatever she said next was likely the same old lecture. I couldn't be bothered to listen. I drove to the hospital where Evan was staying. But I didn't go directly to his room. Instead, I lingered in the shadows, observing. Evan was already awake, and Nina had been by his side all day. Ryan could never stay long in the room. He'd step out every few minutes to chain smoke in the stairwell. Yet he couldn't bring himself to leave entirely. Like a masochist, He kept torturing himself by watching the woman he loved shower his best friend with tender concern. That's when I descended the stairs. My footsteps echoing. Hearing the noise. Ryan glanced up. His face darkened when he saw me. He blew out a cloud of smoke and snapped. "What the hell are you doing here? Didn't you learn your lesson last time?" I stared at him, then smiled coldly. How does a privileged girl like Nina sink so low? Playing homewrecker like some common mistress? Ryan's expression turned murderous. He jabbed a finger at me, snarling, "Watch your fucking mouth." I tilted my head, inching closer. "I've changed my mind. I won't divorce Evan after all. That way. Your precious Nina will never get her claws into him." Though honestly, my voice dripped venom. "A cheap slut like her and a pathetic simp like you? You deserve each other." Ryan swore violently, veins bulging at his temples. He shoved me hard, a reflexive, brutal motion. As he moved to strike again, I deliberately missed my footing and tumbled down the concrete stairs. From his vantage point above, Ryan stared down coldly as I curled into myself, clutching my stomach. When I gasped, "My baby," with trembling, bloodless lips. His cigarette slipped from frozen fingers. Horror flooded his face. Despite rushing to the ER, the pregnancy couldn't be saved. Not that it ever could have been. I'd taken the pills hours before going there. When I opened my eyes, Evan was the first thing I saw. Still in his hospital gown, he sat vigil beside my bed, eyes raw and red-rimmed. He reached for my hand, then let his arm drop limply. "The baby?" His voice broke. "It's gone. We'd wanted this child so badly." Evan had spent months preparing, cutting back on work events, quitting alcohol and cigarettes, getting every possible checkup. Those same tests were how we discovered the complications. Tears streamed down my cheeks as I met his devastated gaze. Then I spotted Ryan lurking in the corner, head bowed. With a trembling finger, I pointed at him. My voice cracking with grief and fury, he pushed me down the stairs. Chaos erupted. Evan whipped toward Ryan, disbelief contorting his features. Ryan opened his mouth but said nothing. No excuses could change the facts. He'd laid hands on me, no matter how harsh my words had been. The next second, Evan lunged forward, his fist grazing past Ryan's temple. He viciously yanked Ryan's collar, fury contorting his features as he roared, "Are you insane? She's my wife. That was my child." Their brutal scuffle left Ryan mostly absorbing blows without retaliation until Nina attempted intervention. Evan shoved her hard. Ryan finally snapped, counterattacking. "What about Nina then? What the hell is she to you?" The hospital room plunged into glacial silence. Evan's gaze flickered toward me lying pale and broken on the bed, fresh from losing our baby. He visibly restrained his heaving breaths, swallowing back emotions. When Nina moved to soothe him, he sidestepped her touch with chilling familiarity. Yet this time, Evan's voice dropped like weighted stone. "I've only ever considered Nina a friend." Nina staggered backward as if struck, devastation etching her face. Ryan cursed, shoving past Evan to drag her from the room. I watched numbly as Evan summoned nurses to add another bed beside mine, declaring he'd be moving in to monitor me, as though we could reset to simpler times. His thorns retracted, replaced by tender devotion. "Even if it's Ryan," he vowed, cradling my face, "he hurt you. I'll make him pay for what he took from us." My heart stuttered painfully at the promise. But as Evan gently massaged my icy fingers, his soothing motions abruptly halted. We both froze. His keen eyes narrowed, dissecting my expression before curving into a smile that didn't reach those obsidian depths. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" The endearment slithered across my skin. Remembering the eerie voice I'd overheard earlier, I withdrew my hand. Under his probing stare, I murmured, "I'm tired," turning away. He studied me relentlessly before finally drawing the blackout curtains. From that day, Evan occupied the adjacent bed despite his own injuries, personally attending to my needs. Nurses kept trying to warn me about his condition, only to be silenced. His excessive solicitude reeked of guilt, a far cry from the man who'd kissed Nina to spite me weeks prior. Had I not known better, I'd question my own sanity. Maintaining cautious neutrality, I waited until midnight when Evan slipped onto the balcony. Believing me asleep, the strange voice returned. "Damn it," Evan hissed, pacing. No wonder she's been different since the divorce papers. I moved too fast. A pause. That idiot Ryan. God knows what he did to make her discard our child just to manipulate me for revenge. His words crystallized the frost spreading through my veins. A chill ran down my spine as I realized Evan had seen right through me. My phone had been confiscated by Evan, who'd insisted I needed proper rest to justify keeping it from me. The next day, when it suddenly buzzed with incoming messages, Evan paused peeling an apple to glance at the screen. Looking up with that unsettling half-smile, he asked, "Honey, who's Jason? Why is he asking to meet you suddenly? You never mentioned him before." I forced calm into my voice as I reached for the device. "Just a cousin we lost touch with after he moved away. Probably visiting my mom while in town." Evan's suspicion dissolved at the mention of my mother. He knew all too well about our strained relationship and her obsession with maintaining appearances. The memory of her verbally eviscerating him during our engagement still made him flinch. Without further questions, he returned my phone. My eyes flew across the screen. "Jason, where? Jason, location pin, Jason, come now." As Evan moved to wash his hands, I frantically sent 2 addresses, the hospital and Harper Estate, followed by desperate SOS texts. The instant red receipts appeared, I deleted every trace and replaced them with bickering sibling banter about avoiding family drama. Jason's characteristic blunt responses, "You insane?" mirrored our childhood exchanges exactly. The phone vanished from my grasp before I could react. Evan's pale fingers scrolled through our manufactured conversation. "Enough chatter," he declared, powering it off. "Rest now. The driver will take us home soon." "Is your condition stable enough?" I asked flatly, fingers clenching the bedsheet. "Home care suffices," he replied with finality. Panic surged. Once trapped in that gilded prison, escape became impossible. The moment he stepped out, I bolted only to crash directly into Evan's chest. His iron grip closed around my wrist. Now imprisoned in the Harper basement, I curse my desperation. My lifeline rests with a childhood friend who might not even recognize the obscure characters in that address. Jason always sucked at Chinese classics. Should have risked calling 911 when I had the chance. In my memory, Jason had always been the quintessential troublemaker since childhood, never hitting the books. Always stirring up trouble. 5 years my senior. He'd already been running with street gangs and shaking kids down for protection money by the time I was still a backpack-toting elementary schooler. Our mothers being close friends. He took it upon himself to look out for me. I'll never forget when some local punks stole my lunch money. Jason chased them halfway across town with a baseball bat. Not only retrieving my cash but using their ill-gotten gains to buy me an entire sack of candy. When I got into the prestigious high school and met Evan, Jason flunked his exams and dropped out to work odd jobs. We gradually lost touch. The occasional rumors I heard about him over the years grew increasingly dark, getting girls pregnant and forcing abortions. Gambling addictions draining his family's savings. Even doing jail time. The image of that rebellious yet fiercely protective big brother from my childhood grew fainter with each terrible story. Even when my mother suggested arranging a marriage meeting with him recently, my gut reaction was visceral disgust. How could I possibly pin my survival hopes on someone like that? The cold clink of chains echoed through the damp basement as I shifted on the mattress. Restraints scraping against metal bedposts. Before the echoes died, measured footsteps descended the concrete stairs. Evan appeared in a soft beige sweater and gray lounge pants that draped over his lean frame like liquid mercury. Tendrils of chestnut hair softened his sharp features as he smiled, that deceptively gentle smile I'd once found so comforting. This beautiful monster wanted me dead. He dragged the room's lone chair to my bedside, placing the damning document on my trembling legs. My own signed divorce papers, retrieved from my handbag. "You've always been so stubborn," Evan murmured, tracing the edge of the paperwork. His wounded puppy expression might have fooled me months ago. "I truly believed you were just acting out when you agreed to divorce me." "Why? Darling? Don't you still love me?" The bitter laugh tore from my raw throat. "You're literally planning my murder and asking if I'll miss you?" His smile didn't falter. "This system-assigned mission requires a protagonist's sacrifice. But once completed..." He leaned closer, breath ghosting over my ear. "I gain the power to resurrect you. Nina may be this world's female lead, but you're my only." "Stop." I strained against the chains until cold metal bit into flesh. "Not another lie." Evan sighed like a disappointed teacher. "I did love you. You know. But since you insist on defiance..." His thumb brushed my racing pulse point. "We'll have to accelerate the timeline." He vanished for 3 days after that conversation. The basement door creaked open again today. My blood turned to ice as familiar work boots scuffed concrete, worn leather ones I'd helped duct tape years ago. Ryan shuffled into the dim light, eyes vacant as a sleepwalker's, movements jerky like a puppet on frayed strings. The input felt manipulated. But the way he wielded the knife, slicing my skin inch by inch with practiced precision, betrayed chilling expertise. As I screamed in agony, curling into the corner to escape him, I suddenly understood Evan's cruel design. The person I feared and loathed most in this world was Ryan. That's why Evan had chosen Ryan to break me, just like in what felt like a past life, pushing me to complete mental collapse until even while knowing Evan orchestrated it all, I'd still beg for his salvation. Evan knew me too well. 3 years as classmates. 7 as lovers. Married straight out of college, he'd once counted every strand of my hair during his obsessive episodes. He anticipated my thoughts from micro-expressions. Now he and Ryan played this twisted good cop/bad cop routine, systematically dismantling my psyche. He never appeared himself. But after each torture session, I'd wake to find some token of his presence, a monogrammed cufflink. Our wedding photo repositioned, forcing me to relive happier memories through fresh agony. This time when I opened my eyes, Ryan's demonic face was absent. Instead, a porcelain doll sat on the nightstand beside a note in that sharp, elegant script, "Let's try for another baby. Shall we?" Happy face. Blood seeped from my arm into the rancid bedsheets. Wild-haired and swollen-eyed, I stared at that smiley face until my last frayed nerve snapped. The scream tore from my throat just as the door exploded inward. Boots clattered down stone steps. "Sis!" My ragged breathing hit Cheetah as a towering figure emerged from the shadows, leather-clad. Military cropped hair framing brutally handsome features. Jason froze at the sight of me, jaw clenching before carefully wrapping his jacket around my shoulders. "I'm getting you out." A pistol cocked behind him. Evan stood silhouetted in the doorway, barrel aimed at Jason's skull. Jason didn't flinch, lifting me bridal style to face my husband. "Think I came alone? Legally. She's mine." Evan's voice iced the damp air. "Marital disputes aren't police business. No one takes what's." "Marital dispute?" Jason barked incredulously, arms tightening around me. "You call this love?" When Evan didn't budge, Jason growled the words that pierced through my delirium. "Let us go if you ever cared." "Her mother, she's dying. You have to let the mother and daughter see each other one last time." Speaking of my mom, she always cared too much about what the neighbors thought of us. But truthfully, apart from Auntie Sue downstairs, she had no real friends. She was gossipy, quick-tempered, her weathered face perpetually drawn into that bitter, resentful expression. She loved complaining to anyone who'd listen, which made people avoid her. The elders said she wasn't like this when she was younger. In her youth, she'd been cheerful and outgoing, making friends everywhere she went. But she'd had terrible taste in men, marrying the worst kind. Everything changed after that. That man, my father, was the one who crippled her leg. Those strong legs that could once walk miles without tiring now trembled climbing stairs. She tried fighting back, but he beat her even worse. After that, she never dared resist again. I was in middle school then, right in my rebellious phase. Seeing her cry alone in her room every day, I snapped and told her, "Why don't you just divorce him?" She slapped me. Know what she said? "No matter what. He's your father." I was furious and heartbroken. Thinking they deserved each other, why did I even bother? But I never imagined this timid, old-fashioned woman, this person everyone saw as weak and pathetic, could ever commit murder. She killed the man she'd always taught me to respect as the head of our household. The police came quickly, the alley swarming with onlookers. But she wasn't arrested. She had mental illness. Even I was shocked when she produced stacks of medical records stamped with official hospital seals. The officers exchanged uneasy glances while my mom stood there unnervingly calm. Only I noticed the dates on those documents. Frozen in disbelief. After that, neighbors crossed the street to avoid us. They whispered that she'd killed my father out of shame after being caught cheating. Why else would she snap after enduring years of abuse? They treated her like a live grenade, petitioning the neighborhood committee to drive us out. My mom ignored them all, barely leaving the house anymore. What no one knew was this. 1 month before it happened, my biological father tried to assault me. When my mom came home and caught him nearly forcing himself on me, she transformed into a raging lioness. They fought, but he overpowered her. After beating her bloody, he fled, leaving us clutching each other on the floor, sobbing. That stack of medical records she showed the police? Every date corresponded to one of his beatings over the past decade. I still don't know what resolution she made that night. All I knew was the next morning, she knocked on Auntie Sue's door and asked her to take care of me for a while. She didn't hide the truth from Auntie Sue, who reacted with both heartbreak and fury before immediately agreeing. Not only that, Auntie Sue summoned Jason to escort me to and from school every day, insisting he accompany me whenever I left the house, though she never told him the reason. She swore the secret would remain between the three of us. Not even her own son could know. Fortunately, Jason obeyed his mother without question. During that period, he even stopped hanging out with his gang friends, dutifully sticking by my side as protection. A month passed without incident. Then I found myself standing in a crowd, numb and disoriented as police officers arrived to arrest my mother. She was covered in blood yet wore an expression of relief, almost contentment. She held her head high as they led her away, scanning the crowd until her gaze settled on me. Her lips parted slightly, and suddenly I was transported back to that day I'd stormed out, too impatient to hear her words. No matter what. Her voice overlapped with the memory. Would your own mother ever harm you? I never got to see her again. She left no final message, just a property deed and a bank card containing her life savings laid plainly on the living room coffee table. Their stark simplicity seemed to say, "This is all I can give you now. You'll have to take care of yourself from here on out." I felt hollowed out, moving through days and a days without conscious grief. Yet the tears kept flowing until exhaustion dragged me down beside her wheelchair, where I collapsed into unconsciousness. Auntie Sue and Jason handled the funeral arrangements. To be precise, Jason did everything. If not for Auntie Sue physically restraining me, I might have crawled into that coffin to join my mother beneath the earth. My head snapped around. Evan stood a short distance behind me, silent and pale, a silver gun in his hand. Leaden clouds hung low as damp wind whipped the edges of his black trench coat. A white rose pinned to his breast pocket seemed to mourn someone unnamed. We stared at each other across the charged air. I watched anguish and guilt deepen in his eyes. His trembling lips forming two words, "I'm sorry." Then he raised the weapon and pointed it at me. The muffled crack came not from his gun, but from the shovel handle connecting with his skull. Evan crumpled to the ground as the firearm skittered into nearby bushes. Jason scooped up the weapon with one hand, his other still gripping the dirt-caked shovel. "What is this? Some damn TV drama?" He planted a boot on the shovel blade, pinning Evan's unconscious form, already dialing 911 with his free hand. "Think you own the whole neighborhood?" The scene was oddly comical. I twitched my lips into a half-smile and turned back to burning paper offerings in the fire pit. A gentle breeze swept through, causing the flames to suddenly leap upward and form a dazzling spiral of sparks that lingered in the air for 2 full rotations before the wind carried away the ashes along with my past. As night gave way to day, the divorce proceedings concluded smoothly, thanks to Jason's testimony and irrefutable evidence from that basement. Evan faced charges of spousal abuse and attempted murder. His company declared bankruptcy, assets frozen, with additional firearm possession charges filed in court. This time, Nina ignored his pleas for help while Ryan stabbed him in the back by submitting financial crime records to prosecutors. Overnight, Evan fell from Golden Boy CEO to a despised corporate villain. I watched during the trial as his expression shifted from dazed confusion to tearful begging when the verdict was read. The man I'd once loved was truly this pathetic. With multiple convictions stacked against him, he received the death penalty by firing squad. He begged for one last meeting, curious about his final words. I went. His eyes lit up like I was his lifeline when I entered this disheveled, wild-eyed shadow of his former self. "There's still a way. You can save me, wife. Help me, Anne." I snorted laughter and stood to leave. Evan scrambled toward the window bars, clawing at me until guards dragged him back. "Wife! Lily!" he screamed hysterically. "You swore to stay with me forever." My footsteps faltered for half a heartbeat before continuing. The cell door clanged shut behind me, sealing his despair. His broken mutterings faded down the corridor. "Unfair. Who'd willingly die for someone else? Liar. Let me restart." His voice dissolved like the nightmare of my previous life, that dismal existence where I'd actually committed suicide over this man. A dream from which I'd finally awakened to sunlight. Outside the courthouse, I blinked at the 8-figure luxury car idling at the curb. My gaze traveled from the gleaming vehicle to Jason's ridiculous attempt at looking cool, one muscular forearm draped over the window frame, oversized sunglasses hiding his eyes. "Did you rob a bank?" I deadpanned. "Or join the mafia?" Jason yanked off the shades to glare. "Ever consider I built this through legitimate business?" He stepped out, those infuriatingly perfect legs unfolding as he dramatically opened the passenger door. I buckled in skeptically. Since when does a high school dropout become a business mogul? "Watch it, brat." He revved the engine, mouth quirking. Turns out hustling pool tables builds negotiation skills. "Now quit judging my ride, we're getting lobster." I froze for a moment, the words slipping out before I could stop myself. "Weren't you in prison?" Screech. Jason jerked the steering wheel, executing a perfect drift that brought the car to a smooth stop by the roadside. He remained silent, taking a deep breath before turning to stare at me with an impassive expression. "Who's been spreading that crap about me? You actually believed it?" Well. I averted my eyes guiltily, desperately trying to recall the origin of this rumor. Suddenly, everything clicked into place. My gaze swept calmly across the faces of those present. Jason reached over and tapped my forehead in exasperation. "You actually believed that old coot? After he got rejected by my mom years ago, he started spreading all those nasty rumors about our family. Have you forgotten? What were you thinking, knowing I'd wronged him?" I kept my head bowed under his accusing stare. Looking back now, I can't believe how irrational I'd been. What kind of person would Aunt Clark be? Jason even protected me when we were kids. Why had I acted like someone put me under some kind of spell, avoiding them and believing such obvious lies? My chaotic thoughts were interrupted by my phone ringing. Unbelievably, it was Ryan calling. I frowned deeply. What could he possibly want now? Before I could react, Jason reached over and ended the call decisively, restarting the engine with steady hands. He said in that reassuring baritone, "Don't worry about it. I'm having people deal with him. Evan's been locked up. And Ryan's next. With me around. Nobody's touching you again." That last sentence kindled a warm glow in the quiet car interior. Touched. I looked up to thank him only to notice his slightly reddened ears. Jason cleared his throat awkwardly. "So, Mom mentioned you agreed to our blind date?" He paused, the words tumbling out in a rush. "Come over for dinner tonight? She made your favorite braised short ribs." I turned to watch pedestrians strolling past rain-kissed storefronts, suppressing my smile, mimicking his fake cough. I replied cheerfully, "Sure thing."